A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for joining us on this edition of Spectrum. We are coming to you live on Radio 1 FM 90, broadcasting live from the Central Building, which is the home of this radio station. But we are also live on our website, which is www.radio1fm90.com. You click on the icon with the word Listen Live. Well, you can also find this radio station live on the different radio listening apps, which you can obtain from the App Store of your smartphone. You download, look for Radio 1 FM 90. And as long as you have an internet connection, you should be able to listen to us from anywhere across this globe. Well, today we'll be looking at the 30 years of the Ugandan Constitution. And the question is, has it stood the test of time? Well, we know 30 years ago, a group of Ugandans who sat in the Constitutional Assembly came up with a document which has since become our Constitution. And this Constitution took into account our past history, the challenges this country faced. And if you look at the preamble, this Constitution promises to address some of those issues never to happen before. But several years down the road, there are a number of issues that have come up. We have seen, decisions that have been taken, including to amend the Constitution, which has left some people unhappy. Although those behind the amendments and those who push for them actually say it's constitutional to actually, amend the Constitution itself, because they say the Constitution is a living document and not cast into stone. Well, today I have two young lawyers in studio here to share their opinion on whether this piece of document, the Constitution, has stood the test of time. Let me introduce them. Mr. Tony Tumukunde is a founding partner at MS Tumukunde and Company Advocates. He's a member of the Uganda Law Society. Good evening, sir. It's a pleasure having you on Spectrum.
Good evening. It's a pleasure being here my very first time. I'm grateful.
Thank you so much. I hope you'll be coming more times. We invite you in the near future. Also in studio, Mr. Amos Kuku is a constitutional lawyer and one of those people who has engaged in public interest litigation. He's an associate partner at Setimba and Company Advocates, member of the Uganda Law Society as well. Good evening, sir. It's a pleasure having you on Spectrum.
Good evening, Anderson and listeners of Radio 1. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, my name is Kenneth Anderson Lukwago, your host. And gentlemen, let's kick off the discussion. And I want to begin with you, Mr. Kuku. 30 years ago, Ugandans elected by, their countrymen assembled in what was known as the Constitutional Assembly and came out with a document which later was accepted by all as the Constitution of this country. And 30 years later, we are trying to see whether this Constitution has stood the test of time. Let me begin with you, your quick opening remarks on the state of constitutionalism in our country as we reflect on these 30 years.
Yes, Anderson, the nature of our Constitution, the preamble of it speaks it all, because it starts by highlighting that, recalling our history, which has been characterized by political and constitutional instability, and recognizing our struggles against forces of tyranny and oppression and exploitation. So the question is that this piece of document is now 30 years since its promulgation by the Constituent Assembly. Has it stood the test of time? The take is that to a larger extent, it has failed. There are a few areas where it has at least tried to achieve A, B, C, D. But the most indicators, what it intended to cure, the forces of tyranny, political and constitutional instability, are still evident within our political dispensation, militarism, and the like. To start with, I will start with the process of the promulgation of this Constitution, the Constituent Assembly. Was it inclusive? Did it involve all the people? Yes, the Sempewa Commission and the like, or Dutch Commission, tried to involve the people. And most of the ideas were incorporated within this document. But within the debating over the different clauses of the Constitution, the whole kind of essence, the soul of the Constitution may have been captured by elitism. The delegates in the Constituent Assembly, what they came up with, because you are seeing the very first Constitution having representatives from the military circles. Yet, the very preamble, we had been struggling with this. Then we look at different amendments that has happened. Yes, we had a very wonderful document. But 10 years up the road, that is 2005, we are getting the very first amendment that uplifted the term limits. That amendment was a double-edged sword, because we are seeing the term limits of the president of this country, which were previously 2 terms of 5 years, being uplifted, almost giving us a nature of a life presidency. And up to now, we are still having a president of this country above 80 years. Terms, I don't know now this is which term, 50 or what, but he's still continuing because he's contesting for the 2026-2031. The good spirit of it was the introduction of multipartism. That was at least good, but still, after even the introduction of multipartism, we've struggled with it up to the present day. We don't know whether we are under multi-party dispensation, political dispensation, or we are still under one man's rule. Then 2017, the removal of the age limits from 75, I don't know to how many years, because it seems now a person can be a president until 100 something or until when they lose their life. That was a backtrack, and that even when public interest litigators tried to litigate about it and introduce issues to do with the basic structure doctrines, they failed at court. Therefore, by and large, the Constitution hasn't lived the test of time. What we are having is not a constitution, but a mutilated document.
All right, I'll be coming back to you to dig deep on some of the issues that you've put across. But let's go to Mr. Tumukunde, who surely also has his own view about the state of constitutionalism. What would you say, Mr. Tumukunde?
Thank you, Anderson, and thank you, my brother Amos. The Constituent Assembly sat in May 1994 to September 1995. Most of the people do not know how long it took 284 members to come up with this constitution, with this piece of paper, authoritative piece of paper. There were 284 members, 270 members were members of parliament. 70 were from interest groups, that is, persons with disability, the UPDF, religious and cultural leaders, name it, there were 70 members. So most of the people were members of parliament. They had problems that this country had faced. And those are the problems that they put in the preamble of this constitution. Uganda was characterized by war. Uganda was characterized by political and religious sabotage. Uganda was characterized by abuse of land rights and women rights, human rights. And that is what actually was brought out in the preamble to assess whether this constitution has stayed authoritative for over 30 years. I would say it has. I would also say it has not in some extent. It's a living document. And like a living thing, you are healthy, you also fall sick. That I need us to actually put it right. If it is a living document, it means it talks. But it can also be stepped on not to talk. And that happens in every government, whether in the United States, whether in Africa. To a greater extent, if you look at peace, unity, and security, how then do you assess whether the government has, whether the constitution has been abided with or to by the government or by the government security officers? That is one way. But also when you look at restoration of social justice, we have had hospitals, we have had schools, UPE, now we have free university education coming up, free university education, we have universal secondary education. That is social justice. When you go to, like we shall be looking point per point, you find that you have where government has achieved, but you have where government has failed. But also, Uganda was characterized by leaders that were not voted by probably their own electorates. And this was the problem, the biggest problem. We had a military rule government. We had a president that never actually had a parliament. We had a president that never would be consulted and would be opposed. And that is the nature that we had. We did not have actually multipartism. 2005 he has actually stated it very well. But now the constitution is coming in to introduce, and with time we shall actually, throughout this show and state how the government has actually made sure that certain clauses of the Constitution have been perfected. The Constitution being a living document, there are times that reach and the Constitution no longer breathes life as to the aspirations of the people. And that is why you see amendments. These amendments are allowed under the very Constitution. Why? Because there is something that worked in 94, 95, but it cannot work in 2024. It cannot work in 2025. I would give you an example. Most of the people now, there is what they call the land question. You have heard very many people saying, why do you fight communal ownership of land in the northern parts and in Uganda? It's a land question. There are people, by 1995, 10 years down the road, 2025, you find that people are saying, no, it's high time we move out of the movement system, then go to multi-party system. So that means it's living, it's breathing life, and people are given chance to decide. Other governments never gave chance to people to decide, and now that is the difference. Has it lived the test of time? For me, I think it has. By the mere fact that we have not had a coup. In the preamble, we had coups. After 9 years, you have over 11 presidents. And that is probably a coup. Without elections, without people deciding. But the Constitution is now telling you that people have a right to decide on their own leaders. Either multipartyism, movement system, NRM, whatever, they have a right to decide. We have now social justice, the courts. Gone are the days where you would get someone committing an offense and then castigate them, throw them into the dungeons and throw them into the dens of death. But now the court system is known. What is the court system? Whether justice is served or not, that is another question. But there is the court system. So it has lived the test of time. That is what it is.
All right, I need to go back to Mr. Kuku briefly. Mr. Kuku, you've had a rebuttal that comes in from your colleague, Mr. Tumkunde. While you say the Constitution has not stood the test of time, he actually clearly tells you it has, even in some areas where you raised concern, for instance, about the amendments. He actually tells you it is allowed, and the Constitution as a living document can be changed to suit what is required at that particular time. What would be your response?
Mr. Anderson, even a dead clock shall count right twice a day.
Twice a day?
Yes, but that doesn't remove the fact that...
how would you relate that to this discussion?
I relate it that we are having a dead document that counts right twice a day. Of course, we can't deny we have areas where either accidentally the government has tried to perform. But even when we assess the nature of its performance, for example, Mr. Titi alluded to the fact of UPE and the like. The quality of education that is being offered there is something to be discussed on another day because it's too broad. But I'd look at the Constitution itself, for example, Chapter 4, because we look at the framework of this Constitution right away from Article 1 that gives the sovereignty of the people, that power belongs to the people, which shall be exercised via democratic periodic elections. But right away from 2001, we are seeing presidential election petitions where court is ruling that, yes, there was some bit of leading, but the substantiality test, it did not satisfy the legal requirement of the substance to annul a presidential election. The same is repeated in 2006, 2011, 2016, we are getting a fundamental judgment from the Supreme Court telling the Attorney General or the Executive to go reorganize and give us constitutional amendments that allows free and fair elections. Up to now, we haven't seen that coming to pass. 2021, we are getting another presidential elections, which was actually withdrawn. I need not mention that even because of that petition, Justice Esther Chisache is in exile. That is the rule of law and constitutionalism and its state in Uganda. We are saying that we may be having a constitution, but how about constitutionalism? Having a document is a different thing, and following the very same document is completely, like, we assess the constitutionalism according to how the document has been followed, not having the black letter of the law. Let's talk about Chapter 4 that gives us the fundamental human rights.
Bill of Rights.
Yes. Let's start from Article 21 that gives us the right to life. We all know what happens in public hospitals. Women still lose life during childbirth. the mortality rates, death rates. Then also let us look at the incidences which are regrettable that have happened in Uganda. The Kasese massacre is still fresh within our minds. I wouldn't delve into that because it's not a topic for this day. 2021 killings which happened, and actually the government even defended it. That's the right to life that we are having under the Constitution and constitutionalism. Let's look at the right to property. Mr. Tone has just alluded to the issue of land rights in Uganda, massive evictions and court cases that move at a very slow pace. It really leaves a lot to be debated as to whether Article 26 has fulfilled the right to property that is desirable, or which was desired while debating this document. Of recent, Article 29, that is the right, freedom of association, expression, and the like, and the massive abductions of different political leaders from the opposition parties. As we speak now, Dr. Chiza Besigye is in prison, actually being abducted from a foreign country, brought back to Uganda, charged in the military court martial, and up to now, the Constitutional Court in Kabazgluka announced the constitutionality of the military court martial, but Parliament itself violates Article 92 and reenacts the very same law. Right now we have the military court martial, the struggles of bail that we've been having in our court system, moreover the High Court. We shall not forget about the bail application of Dr. Chiza Besigye, where a court held that it did not have notes that he had been detained previously under the military court martial, so he did not fulfill the mandatory bail. The Sechitoleko Yasin, that is A.K. Bobby Young, who was given a ruling that because they hadn't been committed to the High Court, they did not satisfy bail requirements. To cut this story short, of recent we've had debates of a proposal to abolish bail in capital offences. That is the state of constitutionalism, social justice, and the state of the judiciary. Let's look at judicial appointments in Uganda. Appointing judges in acting capacity, because the rule of law and constitutionalism, judges must be independent. They must be protected from any kind of influence. The promulgators of the Constitution had it in mind that the president wouldn't be a life president. So the president would appoint judges and leave them into the system for other presidents to take over. Unfortunately, 2005, it was uplifted up to the term limits that he could rule as so many terms, so long as he's in between 35 to 75 years. 2017, we are getting a life presidency. He has appointed all the judges, including even the deceased judges, from the High Court to the Supreme Court. Which kind of independence are we having? They are being appointed in acting capacity. That's the executive. Parliament have just highlighted that when a constitutional court or the Supreme Court announces a certain provision of the law, a certain act or omission, Parliament just goes back and sits and reenacts the very same law. The judiciary itself, they gave us the Kabazgluka case without acquitting or releasing people who had been affected by it. So my take on this is the three arms of the government. We no longer have separation of powers, but they are simply accomplices. That the executive will do whichever thing that it wants through and the judiciary will give it a rubber stamp. Parliament would come and undo what the judiciary has done to ensure that we are having constitutionalism. And today, the military itself, which we tried to embark from by the preamble of the Constitution, is the rule of the day. Actually, we have failed to do with the military court is back and the like. All right, let's go to Mr. Tumukunde. Mr. Tumukunde, you've heard from your colleague there again, very quickly responding. He still insists that if you're reading the Constitution and looking at how it has performed, you need to look at even other issues. He still contends that in certain areas, the Constitution has not done what it's supposed to do. Even quotes the Bill of Rights and points out some examples of things that are happening. We have also heard from you lawyers complaining about the bad trend when it comes to rule of law. Let's engage on that, on the issue of rule of law.
And I don't want to look like I'm not aware that there are abuses of human rights. The president himself has stated it very well, that if there is any person that goes outside the ambits of the Constitution, be it a military officer, be it a police officer, they should be brought to book. Right now, we are aware of military officers in Machindia barracks who have committed heinous offenses, corruption offenses. Public servants have been taken on. But you see, Anderson, the people that sat in the Constituent Assembly,
including the president himself,
and most of the generals that were under the representative capacity of the UPDF, had a yardstick that they wanted to achieve. Restoration of social order, they had a yardstick that they wanted to achieve, because if you look at the preamble, we must gauge them by the preamble. If I may borrow from the preamble, these are the things that they looked at, committed to building a better future. We would have to gauge the 284 members whether they have built a better future. But you see, commitment is not a one-time thing. It's a process. In government, I think the best government is in heaven. Governments on earth have good things, good deeds, and faults. And when you are committed, the word commitment means it's a process. That's why the NRM government is now telling you we have achieved some things, but we need to protect the gains that we have really achieved. So the yardstick that Kuku would use is as to whether, compared to the past governments, there is a better future. 6,000 kilometers of road right now in infrastructure have been constructed. Healthcare, you cannot tell me that the healthcare in Amin's regime, in Obote's regime, is better than the healthcare in the NRM government, even through research and innovation, human development, human resource development, treatment, opening up of health centers. You cannot. That is better, a better future. The government has tried through its social activities, social financing activities, to improve the lives of Ugandans. It is to a commitment of a social future, but also recognizing struggles against tyranny and oppression. And I think that is where the biggest debate is. Every government has acts of tyranny and they oppress their own people. Why? Because I want to be open to you that as you give liberties, civil liberties to people, people also seem to misuse the civil liberties, and government will not look on. I'll give you an example. In Nairobi, embassies were banned. Should people look on? During elections, you are going to see a lot of chaos, castigated from one political party to another political party, castigated by people putting on yellow, putting on red. What is the role of government? To protect property, to protect lives through security agencies. So if you want to say that this is oppressive, then the very government you're castigating has put up remedies and avenues through which you can report. Then the other thing is struggles is determined to establish a democratic order. And this came with a background where people were taking up offices without election. I've told you presidents would come and just take on offices. We have now timely elections. I can give you an example. During COVID-19, which cascaded through 2021, the president was advised not to hold elections. It is on record that he stood firm and he said we needed to vote.
Just because he, under the arrangement of our constitution,
yes,
he would cede power to someone else in that kind of circumstances. So he was not going to accept that.
But you see, he has a right even to amend with over 385 members of NRM. By then, he would actually amend the constitution, because there were very many proponents that were advancing that let us not vote. We are in a state of emergency. That is what they were proposing. But the president, respecting the preamble of the constitution and being a main proponent of this 1995 constitution, he has always told you that whereas I have stayed in power, I have been overwhelmingly voted. Just last Tuesday, that's this very Monday, the list of appointed mayors and LC5s came out. Opposition has only 46. NRM and independent has 81. NRM has 56. It shows you where the strength is. And if those people go ahead and vote the president, you do not castigate the president for taking long in the seat.
All right, Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90. We need to go for a break now. When we return, I'll still bring you two gentlemen on this table to iron out some of the important things that have come out. For instance, we are in an election season, and there are a number of issues that are going on. You mentioned about it, and it's in the preamble of the Constitution, the issues of democracy, issues of rule of law, tyranny, and all those kind of things. We'll deal with those when we return from the break. But I do request the people who are listening to us to share with us what do they think of our Constitution 30 years later. Has it lived to the expectations of many Ugandans. Stay tuned to Radio 1 FM 90. I will return after. Well, we're glad that you're still with us on Spectrum, live on Radio 1 FM 90, live on the different radio listening apps, which you can obtain from the App Store of your smartphone. My name is Kenneth Anderson Lukwago, your host. My two guests this evening, Mr. Tony Tumukunde, founding partner at MS Tumukunde and Company Advocates. He's also a member of the Uganda Law Society, and Mr. Amos Kuku, a constitutional lawyer, associate partner at Timber and Company Advocates. Our topic of discussion today, we are looking at 30 years of the Ugandan Constitution. Has it stood the test of time? Well, this time around, I decided to bring in young lawyers to share their perspective, because the next generation matters as we continue looking at constitutionalism and good governance in our country, which are some of the key issues in the preamble of our Constitution. Now, let's try to apply this Constitution in the context of elections. Mr. Kuku, we are in an election season. Are there anything that you've seen as a lawyer that make you think about the Constitution, the state of our constitutionalism, rule of law, governance, as you also reflect on the preamble of the Constitution?
Anderson, when you check the nature of democracy that was given to us by this Constitution, one, it has been mutilated as I give the introduction, because it was within the soul of the Constituent Assembly that the president would only be here for 2 terms. We are now far gone. We are past that. He has been here for so many terms as he wishes. There was also another kind of safeguard that once he clocks 75 years, he wouldn't go beyond that. We are past that. And that means that all the institutions that were set through the Constitution, that is the Election Commission, Electoral Commission itself, we know very well that the appointing authority is the president of this nation. It would highly puzzle someone's mind that a person appointed by the president would declare that indeed that very same president lost the job or lost the position of being a president of this country via a popular election. No wonder I highlighted that all the presidential petitions we've had in this country, they have been subject of presidential petitions. Then we go to the court itself. I highlighted that judges are appointed by the president. All the judges we are having currently seated on the bench were appointed by the president. But if any party is dissatisfied with any kind of elections, they are supposed to run to the Supreme Court and file a presidential petition, election petition. But we are having judges. The late Justice Kanyehamba puts it well, how the fellow justices abandoned him when they attempted to annul the presidential petition of the victor of Mr. Museveni of 2006, and they left him in the garden. So you find that the institutions, the way we are having them completely, cannot give us democracy whatsoever. The Electoral Commission is not best positioned to give us any kind of democracy. It can't be free and fair. There is a difference between having periodic elections, as I commanded under Article 1 of this Constitution, and also having a free and fair elections. Anderson, look at the quality of our people. For example, because not all rights under Chapter 4 are civil and political rights. We have social, cultural, and economic rights. Our people are poverty-stricken to the extent that to go and vote for a president, some of them are given as little as 2,000. You saw what happened in the recent NLM preliminaries. And what happened when they set up a tribunal, and the outcome of that tribunal, highly regrettable in nature. So people were giving out just lose notes to ensure that people vote for them. Is that a free and fair election? Are the citizenry well positioned to decide who their president is? So ideally what we are having currently is a sham election, yes, given to us by the Constitution, which we must participate into because it's a constitutional right to ensure that at least through it we do sensitization, people get to know the excesses of the government, such that maybe somehow, somewhere, they are mobilized to fight for their rights. But what we are having, we can't have a free and fair election under this Constitution. And what we need to do is, one, I don't know actually, but we need to restore the old version of the Constitution prior to 2005, where we had the term limits, where we had the presidential age limits. Currently, we are into an election period of 2026. As we speak now, Dr. Chiza Besigye said he's in prison. NUP people, it's regrettable. because when you check the supporters of my very party which I belong, National Unity Platform, we have had abductions since 2021. For example, Chibalama John Bosco was abducted on 30 June 2019. The Prime Minister of this country, on the floor of Parliament, informed us that they were having John Bosco Chibalama. Up to now, he has never been produced. I don't know for how many years. Of recent, the Bobby Young, Waiswa Mufumbiro is in detention. Nobianili was abducted just yesterday. Okay, I wouldn't call it an abduction because she was arrested and taken to police. But do they produce them in court within the 48 hours, which is a mandatory requirement of the law? Let us look at the victims of the military court martial and the circumstances that surrounded their plea of guilty and being pardoned by the president. Was it a fair justice system, and was it democratic in nature? How about those who remained in detention when the Supreme Court annulled the constitutionality of the military court martial? For 5 years, they have been there, and the High Court has unfortunately held that they cannot entertain their bail applications because they haven't been committed. So what we are having is completely a sham election, sham government institutions, full of they are simply accomplices of the
your political
of the
party is organizing to go into this sham election, and that's one of the things that defeats the understanding of people. Why would you organize to go in that kind of election you call sham?
Civil rights advocates have always advised that the day we stop talking about matters that concern us, we perish as the human race. Why would we engage into this election? If we abandon going into that election, would it solve anything? Which other avenues do we have to reach to the populace? How shall we communicate to the people? Because people have been disenfranchised. Divide and rule. People have been divided on so many grounds. Tribal lines, class kind of lines. You find that many of our people can't be reached. And when actually we try to sensitize them during normal periods, you know what happened. I will remind you that when Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi went to court and nullified certain sections in the Police Act that barred free demonstrations and like and association, they reenacted them under the Public Order Management Act. So the only period of time a social justice activists could be having, or even political opposition members could be having, election periods where at least you try to mobilize the masses. That's why actually we are having the protest vote 2026, so that people are at least mobilized to fight for their rights. It's not a question that we shall not participate in because it's a sham election, and it will be giving well-live to the government to set for itself opposition members. We are seeing so many political parties coming up of recent, and the genuineness of these parties sometimes is questionable.
All right.
Are they really in opposition or not?
Okay, let's go to Mr. Tumkunde. I'll also put the same question to you. We are in an election season, and a number of issues keep coming up. I'm sure you've heard them, and some of them have actually come out of the mouth of Mr. Kuku, who has actually confessed he comes from the NUP party. Let's hear your response to some of the issues that he has put up across.
Yes, I want to also say I come from DNRM.
You also come from the NUP?
Yes, I do. And I'm going to give a perspective of how DNRM has not actually participated in sham election, but valid elections. The government of Uganda organizes elections through the Independent Electoral Commission. And the Independent Electoral Commission is said to be independent because everything that it does is put on its website. Everything that it does is put in print media. And so every party knows when it's entering into such an election, the procedure, the formalities and the bureaucracy of that election. And you get given chance either to participate or not to participate. We have seen political members that have actually said they will never participate in elections. That does not cast into stone other people's rights to participate in such an election. He speaks about abductions and arrests. But I want to tell him that what is done by government is an arrest. You see, Anderson, an arrest is done by a lawfully recognized person, security person, or law enforcement person. And the Yame and the police have always come out to state whether they have such a person or not. Just today, their spokesperson, Deputy spokesperson Mufumbiro, was behind the cell bars stating that it's Kabaziguruka that is arresting him. But yet the police was clearly stating that we have you over certain offenses and we have taken you to court for those offenses to be read to you. Now that is lawful, it's not abduction. The plates of cars that where Swamufumiro was put, we already showed to the public. Now that is not abduction. Abductions, you don't even know the number plate.
But what's the process of arresting an individual?
You see the process under the Police Act.
We are actually told you come, introduce yourself, and tell the person why you are arresting them, read them their rights, and then take
now,
them.
That is what
the way people are being picked up.
You see, Anderson, that is where the problem starts. These people record videos. You don't even know whether Kuku, before arresting him, he was actually read the offenses that he committed, read to the offenses that he committed. What is actually stated by a person that wants political leverage is they would come and say, Kuku has been arrested, he has been taken to unknown places, before even establishing where they have been taken, whether Wandegea police. But if you want to say how organized the police is now, because of social media and technological advancement, they have always informed people where they are taking people, to which court they are taking them, and sureties have been asked to come. If it is an arrest, then it is lawful. An abduction, I don't think the army has abducted anyone, and it has not actually reported. But also, the nature of arrest depends on the characterization of the offense. The offense is really, if for purposes of security, Kuku was reported that is going to detonate a bomb, you would not actually wait to go to court and get these search warrants and get everything. So it depends on the nature of the offenses. But also, Kuku, your members went and committed offenses at your party headquarters. Whether they are offenses or not, let's subject them to the authorities. Then the authorities will interpret whether drilling is really an offense in the terms of parading at political party offices. That is one. When we come to elections, whether they are sham or not, Bobi Wine in 2021 came and said, this is the worst election we have had. It has been fraudulent. Chagulanyi Sentamu. The president of Uganda also came and said, they stole my 2 million votes. So if all people are fighting, which authority has to decide? Whereas Electoral Commission Chairperson Justice Byamukama is saying the election was free and fair. Transparency Africa is saying it was free and fair. European Union is saying, yes, there were problems, but to a great extent it was free and fair. Then that is why we have set up social order by court system, that go to court and then court will decide. The people that say that the elections were fraudulent pulled out. When we come to Justice Sisacho, before I conclude, there has been a tribunal set, headed by John Musime. The tribunal gives you right to be heard. Did she come? No. Judicial Service Commission called her. Did she come? No. So what do you want court to do? If you are saying that you have a strong case, then present it before the courts and then they would gauge. I have a problem with these young chats who actually play kitty games. I would give you an example. People have run away from summons of court. When they issue warrants of arrest, then they begin castigating government. Government is fighting us, but court clearly invited you to come and present your case. You refused. So it is within the law that if you refuse to come respectively and voluntarily, court and government will come for you through its security agencies.
All right, Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90. We need actually to go now to the lifeline of this show to hear from the listener who has sent in their message via the WhatsApp line 0703 090 090. Take your pen and paper, or maybe you might need to note some of these comments and then be able to respond to them. Well, I'm going to begin with this comment that comes in from Kauka from Mukono, who says, a constitution is a piece of paper which rarely takes into consideration the situation on the ground. The lawyers have benefited more from the failures of the constitution because they always make money from the numerous litigations against government excesses. Suspend the constitution and fast fight corruption instead of feeding lawyers. Multi-party democracy is not meant for Africa because it's too expensive, so the constitution cannot stand the test of time. We have a shadow constitution in Uganda. Everything is about President Museveni. He dictates who will be Speaker of Parliament. The Chief Justice is the head of the executive. He coerces the MPs to make laws that suit his interests against the will of the people. When Article 1 says that power belongs to the people and you ask the people of Abim, the answer will be, maybe you are talking about solar power. It's the only power that belongs to them, especially those that have solar panels on their rooftops. Kenneth, please tell Council Tony that I'm seriously dying on engaging with him, and I would love him to contact me. That's Orlando there trying to reach out to you. The Constitution is merely there as a tick box, but as far as living is concerned, I beg to differ. Let's not recognize Constitution based on how things were in 1980s and 2000s. Different contexts, different dynamics. It's like comparing apples and oranges. A simple example, rights of speech. We saw recently how youth peacefully wanted to express their concerns to members of parliament, being muzzled and held by the military, not even police. These are youth, not terrorists. Let's be real. This constitution is there for protocol purposes only. That's a comment from Michael Lugazi. Anderson, thank you for the good topic. Mr. Tumukunde's opinions suppose that the current government respects rule of law and the constitution itself. Does he live in Uganda? The truth of the matter is that the 1995 Constitution consensus collapsed with the removal of term limits from the Constitution in 2005. The deep state captured the government. Constitution is now a mere piece of paper, and effectively, Uganda is under a military dictatorship. That's Alan listening in from Ntungamo district. Charles in Wakiso Town Council, thank you for the program. Lawyer Tumukunde is just an academic. The gist of the matter is whether this constitution speaks to the preamble. Yes, the amendment is provided for, but for what? And why do you have to bribe the debate to have, why do you have to bribe the MPs to have your selfish interest? The president stated in Arua, Bobby Wine is properly beaten, not that. Now, Tumukunde takes to comparison of regimes should factor. Tumukunde talks about comparison of regimes. He should factor in the time factor. Try 40 years and we are still struggling. Then we have another comment. Good evening, Spectrum. Ejoy Job, Arua Boy. I thank you for the program concerning the Constitution of Uganda. The government always follows the things that can keep them in power. Look at Article 102B, the removal of age limit. If they think somebody is beyond 80 years, it's still relevant. Why is that the retirement age for the civil servant is still maintained at 60 years? Mr. Tumukunde, if the reason for which the court system was established is not achieved, what is the importance it was established for? But nowadays, injustice has been served before courts of law. What is the difference with the previous regimes? I think you wasted your time to go to law school. Somebody think Kanele Johnson from Sironko. The problem is not a president. We even have a problem of opposition MPs. For example, the so-called outspoken MPs always stand to make fun on the floor, but have never waited to participate in an amendment of a bill that may instead move out and leave the NRM. Amend the bill in the favor of the opposition, and it's considered as the most dangerous thing to this country. Jimmy Lisengin from Kanyanya. I guess it has prevailed, but only in two areas where it doesn't seem to limit the interests of the Sabalwani. That's the president. And then we have another comment here. As for the constitution, remember, the head of state is an incumbent. He still enjoys state of privileges despite contesting with others to actual day of election. I doubt anyone can beat such an advantage in an election. Election results are to be declared in 48 hours, yet our voting population has grown at least twofold over 20 years. More districts and constituencies and the polling stations, etc. The winner is declared within 2 to 3 days, and yet we expect those challenging the results to respond within 15 days. Clearly, the governance mechanism can improve, and NRM as the ruling party should raise the flag on how this country can do better to give a more fitting and higher quality of life to majority Ugandans. Well, there are so many other comments that are coming in, but time is not on our side, so we have to take on what we can. And let me begin with you, Mr. Tumukunde. Yes. Probably you'd like to respond to some of these comments.
Most especially the one of, I wasted time to go to law school. It's the reason why Kuku is here, because he went to law school, and he would tell you that lawyers never agree until to a certain point where an impartial party tells them you must agree by force. But also, Anderson and my brother Kuku here will understand that the purpose of every political party and every government is to get power, get to power, and always be in power at whatever cost. And this has been in America, this has been in Africa world over, this has been in East Africa.
It shouldn't be at whatever cost. It should be within the law. Constitutionalism.
You see, in Africa, leadership is not what you know. It's leadership by all means, if not by any means. And that I want to be open. I don't want us to panic.
So why do we have a constitution then?
Now, the constitution is telling you that every 5 years, we must vote for a president. And if that president gets 50 plus 1%, he should be declared the winner. Now, for over 35 years, the president has showed you that he has garnered support. He has prepared. As to whether that support curtails the abilities of of other political parties, it's been a question of law. They have always gone to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has stated, because of the substantial test, you cannot actually downplay the elections. The purpose of your MPs as opposition believers is to elect people that stand on their legs and say, we need to change from the substantial test, the quantitative test, to the qualitative test. Like in 2005, Nairobi did it in Kenya.
Do you want that to change? Would you want that
We would, because no one actually, even the president right now has advocated for use of biometric voter verification system.
Electronic.
Yes, electronic. We are going qualitative, slowly by slowly. But also when you say that because we have not achieved 90%, then it's a dead government, then the constitution, it's the very constitution that is paying you it's the very constitution that is paying salaries to public officers. It's the very constitution that is actually protecting your land in court system. There are fouls that have been committed by judicial officers. There are bodies that are there to address those fouls committed by judicial officers. There are corruption cases that have been committed by public officers. There is where you can take them. There are tribunals and committees that have been set to take them there. On liberties and protection of human rights, we have seen the introduction, unlike other governments, there is the Uganda Human Rights Commission. I remember when the Uganda Human Rights Commission summoned the CDF of this country. It is a step forward. In other governments, you wouldn't even risk whether he went there or not. It's another question to debate on another day. But at least there is a commission that summoned, and it has awarded people compensation. It's when you look at their reports, it has awarded them. If the government is bad, there is no government that is actually good 100%.
All right. I'm afraid we need to bring this discussion to an end, but I have to go to Mr. Kuku for your closing remarks very quickly.
Thanks very much, Anderson. Anderson, the closing remarks are that I and my colleague Tony, we have betrayed the Constitution itself. The Constitution is a living document, self-reincarnation. I dedicate the countrymen and women who are struggling for the change, Article 3 of this Constitution, Clause 4, that allows them to protect and defend this Constitution using whatever means, including even violent means, including even picking up arms, to ensure that any group of people that overthrow this Constitution is brought to book and constitutional order is restored. By that, we can even overthrow the government. The Constitution doesn't belong to President Museveni, doesn't belong to the Parliament led by the Speaker, doesn't belong to the judiciary led by the Chief Justice. The Constitution belongs to the Ugandans. Right. Even when it was mutilated, it's still surviving under Article 3, Clause 4, 5, and 6. People who use such means are exonerated as and when constitutional order is restored. Thanks very much. With that,
we have to bring this discussion to an end. I must thank you, gentlemen, for making time to be here. We'll continue having this discussion about the 30 years of our Constitution to try and understand whether it's making sense for this country, and another set of lawyers will be in this studio maybe next week to deepen the discussion further. From me and the team in studio, we want to wish you a good evening, but stay tuned to Radio 1 FM 90, because the news in English with Miss Josephine Dagano is up next. Thereafter, great songs and great moments with BB Jr. as he does the